Hi folks.
Hi folks.
Rich and Jay here. Today we're going to talk to you about our Instameets and what sort of equipment you need to come along and join in.
Get down to the bare basics. What do you really need to come along with just to enjoy the outing? Really, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I guess, well, what is the main bit of equipment that we're going to want? Some sort of camera.
That's right.
I guess that's where we're starting.
Yeah.
So folks, I guess look, we've had some terrific results. In fact, we'll put some up here of some of our even accomplished photographers bringing along their mobile phone to some of these Insta meetups, and I've got to be honest, I've been very surprised at the result, Joe.
Yeah. Well, Jesse's an advocate for the phone usage, and
absolute
some of his
advocate.
work's amazing.
That's right, and I guess because his phone's in his back pocket means he's carrying his camera the whole time. He seems to get those photos that perhaps you and I kind of miss sometimes, because by the time we get our cameras out and set it up, that moment can be gone.
Yeah.
But all right, Jay, just tell me, like obviously we all got a mobile phone of some description. What are the other bits that will sort of make this phone react and get it a lot closer to being able to perform in the field?
Okay, well, most of we're iPhone users, but Windows Phone, I'm not quite entirely sure.
Androids.
Some of their Android phones, how their camera system works, but an Apple phone is fairly limited. It's pretty much all automatic.
Yeah.
You can press the button, you can zoom, you can change the focal point, but there's not much else you can do. You can't really change the white balance, the ISO, all those things that can affect.
You can't do the artistry part of
That's right,
photography.
and I know some of the latest Android phones have that. All
Ability.
those adjustments in there, and be able to change the shutter speed and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But
you have
don't feel bad. You
can.
There are apps for it basically. I've tried out a free app which is called VSCO.
VSCO.
Yeah, and it enables you to change the white balance,
Yeah.
exposure, ISO, and you can muck around the focus points and all that sort of thing. So it's fairly basic, but if you want to download that, it'll give you much more freedom at these instruments to create
fundamentally what that allows your phone to do is just do the basic things that a standard camera will do. Like Jay said, the exposure control, that's always important. The white balance, like that's how we put mood and feeling by introducing certain colours. Yeah, that's right. So certainly, and I guess the only other thing, there's a multitude of this type of arrangement on the market where, you can use it as a handle or as a tripod of some description. But what that allows you to do is to get absolute stability rather than trying to hand hold. It's not a problem that the mobile phone users have just on their own. This is something that all photographers struggle with, is keeping the shutter speed open long enough to get enough light in. But of course, should you move while the shutter is open, it just takes that sharpness off the shot, and it can be so disappointing. So a basic little tripod like that, the mobile phone you've already got, and a free app, that's really where we're at. That's the basic bit of equipment.
And if you want to go further, there are paid apps. I use one called ProCam, which opens it up basically to all the settings of DSLR. It's done electronically, of course, but one of the main things is I can set the shutter speed to any duration that I want, rather than the phone working it out automatically. So if I want to go and do like our upcoming Instameet in Brisbane nighttime walk, you want to get some long exposure, you want to soak in all that light and maybe boats going up the river, whatever you want to do.
The trails and the traffic, things like that. Yeah,
I can do that with a paid app. It's like $8 or something like that. ProCam.
But a paid app for $8 to turn your mobile phone to have the functionality of a true camera. That's not a big outlay.
That's right.
Yeah, sure. All right. Okay. So perhaps if you have already been shooting on your phone and you think you're ready to progress from that point, let's go through some basic camera equipment, and we'll talk primarily of DSLR cameras.
So we've got here a 60D Canon.
Yep.
You'll know what sort of level that is.
The 60D. Yeah, well, it's what we call an APS-C size sensor, so it's slightly smaller than what we term a full-frame DSLR. That full-frame DSLR, we're referring to the size of the image sensor, and when we refer full-frame, we're saying that it occupies the same amount of area that the film used to occupy in a 35mm film camera. So this one here, a 60D, an APS-C size sensor, slightly smaller than the 35mm film film would occupy.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing that I guess when we look at, say, the 60D, there are certain photographers that would prefer to have a crop sensor rather than a full frame, and that includes people like sports photographers and wildlife photographers.
Yeah.
Because of that smaller imaging sensor, in the law of optics, it simply makes that your existing lens has a 1.5 magnification factor. They call it the crop factor. So what that means is, say on a 60D, a 50mm lens is actually acting as a 75mm, bringing everything a little bit closer and a little bit more compression, and there's nothing wrong with that. So that crop size sensor, that is really the entry point for most people exploring photography.
Yeah.
That camera has all the functionality for the white balance, your exposure, your shutter, your aperture control, complete manual. So yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great starting point. When you walk into a camera shop in that entry-level range, what you're buying is not necessarily a camera that takes lesser quality pictures. It has a slower processor. It may not have some of the advanced features like wireless flash, for example.
Yeah.
If you're a dedicated portrait photographer, it would pay to get out of that entry level and just get into, say, either a 60D or in the Nikon range, a D7200. Those sorts of cameras have some of the advanced features that come along with it. But I guess, Jay, the most important thing for a camera is the lens. I've got to say.
Certainly, yeah.
That imaging, I would go as far as to say even the entry-level cameras produce outstanding images. The actual technology is terrific. But it has always been, not just in digital photography, but going back to the days of film, the lens that was doing all the work. So let's just talk about what we'd class as our three amigos. I think everybody needs a standard zoom. Now that standard zoom, I'm going to say, is going to be on your camera 80% of the time. Now in a crop sensor camera, we're looking at lenses which are typically 18 to 55, and perhaps, some of them will even have an 18 to 135. That would be a great choice for a standard zoom. But then, of course, you're going to want to have a little bit more reach. Now, there's a couple of reasons why a telephoto lens comes into play. I love using a telephoto lens, particularly if I'm going to shoot portraits. It narrows my field of view, but it also has this effect called compression, and we all benefit a little bit by compression. And of course, if that's the type of photography that you're enjoying, if you're dedicating your photography experience to portraiture and taking pictures of people, a nice telephoto lens and perhaps a 50mm. Now that 50mm, there's a lot of reasons that's my favourite lens. First of all, it's the lens that I use when I do all of those shallow depth of field shots, where I'm taking one part of the image and keeping it nice and pin sharp. And those things that maybe not of quite of interest or quite as attractive, I blur out in the background. And the significance of this particular 50mm lens is it has an aperture of 1.4. Now, the wider that aperture is, that means I'm going to get better blur in the background, but also better low light performance as well. So, folks, if you're sort of dipping your toe into the area of getting into DSLR photography, like, shoot us an email. We'll certainly help you out with any decisions you need to make there. But it would be a pretty safe decision to say standard zoom, 18 to 55, 18 to 135. A telephoto, something around 55 to 250, 70 to 200, something of that nature. Even Canon makes a beautiful 70 to 300. And of course that 50mm for the shallow depth of field and the low light performance.
They're three lenses that you'll use all the time.
That's right.
We have a couple of wide angle lenses here, but they're, like you always say, they're one trick ponies. They're designed for wide angle photography, landscapes, high depth of field, all that sort of thing. So they are limited use basically. So
I would put that as maybe my fourth or even fifth lens that I would purchase. A wide angle. I guess the hardest part about using that wide angle lens is it exaggerates the distance between your foreground and your background. So as long as it is wide, it's also stretching your image out. And for the uninitiated, that can be quite a task to actually make a dynamic composition using a wide angle lens.
Just for example, that Instameet we did at Snapper Rocks,
Yes.
where we were at Snapper Rocks, on the horizon over the ocean was Service Paradise and all the tall buildings. The shots I took with this wide angle lens, they were minuscule. You could basically couldn't make them out. Where somebody using, like a 70-200, even at the 100mm sort of thing, they'd still catch that foreground in.
Yeah.
But those buildings are going to be, you'll see them in the
Yeah,
photo.
they bring them right to
Yeah.
yeah, that's right, Jay. Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
So, all right, Jay, this Instagram meetup that we've got happening in Brisbane, can you tell me a bit more about that?
Okay, we're meeting at the Wheel of Brisbane.
Okay, that's the
which
big
is
Ferris wheel at South Bank.
South Bank.
Yep, that's a
that's
pretty
right.
iconic spot.
Probably 6 p.m. on Wednesday, the 26th of July.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, and we'll go from there, and I guess that's right next to the river, so I imagine we'll get lots of reflections of the water and all that sort of thing.
I think it's going to be outstanding. I really love photographing Brisbane, and the fact that John, our facilitator in Brisbane, he is an architect student at QUT. So I think more exciting for me is going to be learning a little bit of the history about our buildings in Brisbane as we walk around and photograph it. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah,
I really am. All right, folks, so don't forget, if you want to join us there, your basic minimum bit of equipment is going to be your mobile phone. Splash out, spend $8 so that you can experience photography in the true sense of being able to make some adjustments to your phone.
Yeah.
And one of those little tripods with the bendy legs, you can wrap it around a railing or a post or something. That is going to make sure you get a better result than attempting to hand hold.
Yeah, for sure.
Folks, thanks for watching our vlogs. Look, if you've got anything that you'd like us to either put into our vlogs, some information you'd like us to share, we're more than happy to do so. Don't forget, please hit the like button.
Yep.
Have a look at our YouTube channel. And don't forget to join us Wednesday, 26th, Brisbane. Thanks, folks.
See you later.
Bye.